It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And we're the Insiders, and we've got a great topic today, right? There's nothing quite like an open race for statewide office. So to the surprise of many, Governor Evers has declined the opportunity to run for a third term, and that kicks the race for governor wide open. Chuck, what's the Democratic profile looking like on that? Who's going to be running on your team?
Well, it's interesting that even after the governor getting out, there's still some surprises there. We've heard nothing from Ben Wickler, so it looks like maybe Ben Wickler is not running. We haven't heard from Josh Call, the Attorney General, but he may be running, but he may not. We're hearing a lot of different things out there. There are some people, though, who are running, and I would imagine there will be a significant number. Number one, I would say, is Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez. She was the person who announced first, and by the way, had a nice video that she put out early, clearly realized that this may be happening and had done some groundwork. That always says a lot for someone if they're doing the prep work and doing all the behind the scenes things. We've also got David Crowley, county executive in Milwaukee. But as Crowley himself pointed out, he's got a little bit of a challenge here because right now, with the flooding that's gone on in Milwaukee County, he's kind of focused on that. So it's holding him back a little bit. We've heard from Kelda Roys, who has run for governor in the past and is serious about thinking about it again. And Francesca Hong, who's, I think, a surprise candidate who would be definitely in the Democratic Socialist vein. And she's out there. I would not put her in the top tier of candidates, but she's out there as well. And we expect that there are going to be other people considering this as we go forward.
Well, I assume that Dane County needs to have a candidate in this race, right? They need to have they dominate the Democratic primary in Wisconsin. So I assume that Roy's or someone else is going to run. It is somewhat of a surprise that Call hasn't said where he is yet. I do think that Wickler's sort of in a position where he has this incredible ability to raise money from the national level. He could actually wait longer than the other candidates and enter late, maybe after his book comes out. I guess he's working on a book. So, well, it'll be interesting. I don't think we've seen the last of the candidates, right, on the Democratic side. Yeah, I
think you're right. I think there will be more candidates. I think everything that Scott said certainly applies here as well. I do think, though, that you want to get out there and start getting endorsements lined up. I noticed that Rodriguez has already put out endorsements, both from legislators and from local government folks. But I do think that you'll see more people involved in the race. And I also think here's the other dynamic that we have to know, and this applies to both the Republicans and the Democrats, and that is that there's a U.S. Senate race coming up, especially for Democrats in 2 years, and maybe for Republicans as well. Is Ron Johnson going to run again? So somebody like Call, it's an easy option for him to say, why would I want to give up the Attorney General spot when I can have a free shot midterm to take on Ron Johnson? And that also helps his fundraising capacity. So there are a lot of dynamics going on, but I think Scott is right. We're going to see a number of more people, even on the Democratic side.
So on the Republican side, we have two candidates who are already in the race. Josh Showman, the Washington County executive, a guy who's quite competent, done a good job as the county executive, not flashy, but of course, Tony Evers proved that can work, not being flashy. Sometimes just being a steady Eddie is a good thing. Boring, as the governor said, can actually be an exciting thing in politics. Bill Berrien, the businessman from the businesses in New Berlin, but he's from Whitefish Bay. He's entered the race. I think he's had some stumbles here. He's got some things, positions he's taken in the past that have upset the grassroots on the Republican side. So he's trying to massage all that. In the meantime, I think there's at least one other candidate who I think is very likely to enter the race, and that's Congressman Tom Tiffany. If Tiffany enters the race, I don't think there will be any other entrants. And I think Tiffany is immediately the front runner and also very likely to win that Republican primary. Tiffany has earned his spurs with the grassroots all across Wisconsin. I think he's going to have national resources coming to help him. Historically, He hasn't been a big fundraiser. That's one thing he's going to have to overcome in this race. But I think that he's already been working on that. So I think that's quite likely. And we haven't had a candidate from the North in a while in a race for governor. So that'll be something a little bit different in this race.
I think that Scott, of course, he knows the Republicans far better than I do. I would say this, I think on the Democratic side, I think, and I've had some conversations, people want to pray for a candidate like Tom Tiffany. I think that Republicans are not fully aware yet of how different gubernatorial races are with the different turnout and the different electorate. Tom Tiffany would be a disaster, I think, for the Republicans. I think Democrats could really run the table with him as the candidate. I think the Democrats hope that he gets in because I think that he will not have any outsider thing. He will have to buy into all of the Trump baggage. That's not a good thing because he's voted for it as a congressman. So I think that he doesn't have the advantage of coming from that Republican base in the suburbs around Milwaukee, which although it's weakening, it's still essential for any Republican to be able to win. In fact, Tiffany's district is going to be one of those districts that will probably have the biggest drop off in the vote between the presidential and the gubernatorial. So there's a lot of dynamics yet to happen. But by the way, one other dynamic we should talk about is who's going to be lieutenant governor. You think, well, they don't really vote for that. But on the Democratic side, I think there's probably Sarah Godlewski and Brad Pfaff. And I think a lot of Democrats are thinking, well, depending upon who gets to be the top of the ticket, it might be good to have balance there in lieutenant governor race. It'll be interesting to see if Democrats are able to navigate that and whether Republicans will as well, because there's definitely a balance issue that could go on that might help both parties in that regard.
I think the most interesting dynamic in the Democratic race, once the field is established, is going to be, do they chase each other to the left? Do they try to, in an effort to win the progressive vote in Dane County in particular, do they just keep trying to top each other and then make themselves unpalatable in a general election? That's happened to a number of candidates around the country. It happens on the Republican side where people race to the right. But I think given that this is an open seat and there's no clear front runner, as far as I can tell in the race on the Democratic side, that they're going to be elbowing each other to see who can be the true progressive in that race. And if that's the case, I think they'll find themselves out of step with general election voters.
I think the problem on that regard, as Scott points out, is really more on the Republican side. They are all vying for the Trump endorsement. They're all vying to be, I'm totally aligned with Trump. Berrien has done a terrible job of saying some really awful things, in my view, that will come back to bite him in the general election if he were to be able to make it. But I'll tell you what, that's their problem. I frankly think the Democrats aren't going to go for that bait. And I do think there will be more than one candidate over on the left. They'll both be vying for that. I don't think that that's going to happen on the Democratic side, because I think they realize that they don't have to be ultra left. All they have to be is committed to mainstream issues, which Donald Trump has abandoned. And I think that's going to win from public education, K-12 education, healthcare, fundamentals for people across the state of Wisconsin are going to sell. You don't have to be out on the extremes of the party in order to win this primary election for Democrats.
That was the winning formula for Tony Evers in the 17-way or whatever it was primary that Democrats had 8 years ago. They'd be smart to replicate that again this time, but I'm not seeing that around the country right now. I think that people are fighting for the soul of the Democratic Party. Look at the races that we're seeing for mayor of Minneapolis, mayor of New York. The most left-wing candidate is the one who's winning, and that's going to be a problem for them in the general election.
We'll see if that happens. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to The Insider with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.